Hi everyone, it's Tara Bianca with Be Light Transformative Therapy, and today I want to offer you some simple hands-on techniques for addressing your TMJ, aka your temporomandibular joint. So there's a lot we can do in this area, but today we're going to take a look at about 7 techniques that we're going to use to directly address the TMJ and surrounding areas in hopes of helping to reduce your pain and discomfort in this area, and also in hopes of creating better muscular balance and movement. Before we start, let's just do some basic range of motion of the jaw so that we can get a baseline for comparison for after we do the exercises. So firstly, let's go ahead and just open and close the mouth. So depression and elevation of the jaw. So opening and closing. And just making note of how wide you can actually open your mouth. Is there any pain? Is there any limitation? Do you hear any clicking? Okay, and then protrusion and retraction, so from the side. Any pain, any clicking, just making note of how much range of motion you have in that direction. And then lastly, we're going to do a little lateral translation from one side to the other. So just separating the lips and the teeth a little bit. And for me, I get a little bit of something on this left TMJ, a little bit of clicking, a little bit of discomfort. So just making note. Does it go more in one direction than it does in the other? What's happening? Okay, so you have 4 principal muscles of mastication, or muscles of chewing, that really have a strong influence on this temporomandibular joint. So those are your temporalis, your masseter, and then your lateral pterygoid and your medial pterygoid. And we're going to touch all of them at least a little bit today. Temporalis and masseter are very superficial and external, so those are easier for us to get our fingers on. And then the pterygoids, we're just going to kind of gesture towards. I'll make another session very soon where we actually do some intraoral work where we'll more directly make contact with these pterygoid muscles. Okay, we're going to start with temporalis. So if you put your fingers right on the temple area and you chew your teeth together, clench your teeth, you'll feel that muscle pop up, right? And you can feel it a little bit above the ears as well. So this is a primary muscle of chewing. It really surrounds the ears. So we're just going to take our fingers and do some very gentle massage. So now if anyone is struggling with major jaw pain, major jaw issues, clenching, clicking, grinding of the teeth, anything like that, you might feel tremendous pain and discomfort while doing this. There could be a lot of trigger points in temporalis. So work to your pain threshold, right? Maybe today you're touching lightly and just trying to move the skin a little bit, move the hair a little bit. So I'm taking direct inward pressure with my finger pads and I'm just taking the skin and the hair with me. I'm not gliding over the hair, right? So making good, connecting with the tissue, deep pressure with the fingers, and then just taking that tissue with you. And we'll just do this for a couple of minutes, warming up temporalis, kind of making our way around the ears a little bit, coming behind the ears even a little. Good, another couple passes. If you find a really sore spot, you can just hang out there and breathe a little bit. Good. So even this in and of itself is pretty relaxing, just to get your fingers working all of these muscles around the ears. Good. Okay. So now we're going to take our ears, and because all the fascia of your ear is really interconnected with all of this tissue around the TMJ and into the temporalis muscle and deeper into the temporal area, Your ears are like this little handle we can use to create some traction, to create a fascial pull and an opening through the joint and the whole temporal area of the head. So you're just going to grab your ears. I like to usually get my index finger in the ears and then I just pull out. So I'm wrapping my thumb behind, so I have a really good grip on the whole ear. And I'm gently just pulling out. So I'm literally pulling out. Don't hurt yourself, obviously. Just pull enough to create this feeling of opening. And so I already feel that pulling into the joint. And then you can intensify that and help to move it along a little faster by adding some active range of motion in the jaw. So I'm continuing to traction my ears away from my skull, and then I open and close my jaw. And obviously don't make the TMJ dislocate from the joint if that's something that happens for you. If it slips out, only open your mouth enough to create a little bit of traction away from the ears. Good, another couple times. Awesome, good. So now we're going to be thinking about the lateral pterygoid. And we're not going to really directly touch it, but we're going to be gesturing towards it and getting some of the superficial tissue that connects right into the joint. So I'm going to come right in front of that joint. I'm thinking about fingers in and pulling away from the ear. So you saw how that made my ear move, right? And then I'm going to grab the ear and counter strain the ear away. So you see how I'm straining that tissue right around the joint itself. And then I'm going to reset. I'm going to come right in front of the joint, press my fingers in, drag away, so towards my nose, grab the ear and counter strain, really opening that tissue around the TMJ. Let's do this 2 more times on this side. So pressing in, pulling away, grab the ear, counter strain. And again, pressing in, pull away, grab the ear, and counter strain. Good, and let's do that on the other side. So coming right in front of the joint, pressing in, pull towards the nose, grab the ear, pull away. Notice how that skin around the TMJ opens up. So opening up that joint space. Pressing in, pulling towards the nose, grab the ear, counter strain the opposite direction. Good. And pulling in, grab the ear, counter strain. Well, let's do one more. Pulling in, drag away, grab the ear, counter strain. Good. So now this is going to probably be a little bit uncomfortable, but we're going to literally pick up the skin, all of the skin right on the TMJ, and we're just going to try to grab it and pinch it, and just sort of picking it up and rolling it. Now, if you have active jaw pain, this can be incredibly intense and incredibly uncomfortable. Maybe don't do this exercise if it's too much for you today, or just take your fingers lightly and start to try to move that tissue superficially first before you go a little bit deeper. So grabbing, so I'm literally pinching between my fingers and I can kind of roll back and forth, or I can just roll it like I'm rolling a piece of dough, really. So trying to give some space to all of the nerves that run through here. Trying to make space around this joint itself. Picking up and rolling. Picking up and rolling. Do it a couple more times. So it should get less and less sensitive the more passes you make. Good. And now we're going to do the same thing with masseter. So masseter is this big chewing muscle, right? So if I clench my teeth again, you see it stick up, right? So if you think of a pit bull, for example, you have a good idea of what the masseter muscle is, right? That's that huge external muscle on their jaw that you can really see well defined when they clench their teeth. So we have one too, not quite as well defined, but it's still pretty active, pretty strong. So it goes from that zygomatic arch of the cheekbone and it comes down to the angle of the mandible. So we're gonna pick it up. The fibers kind of run this direction. We're gonna pick it up vertically and just pull and roll it. So we're kind of picking up and rolling the masseter. And we're just gonna work our way down the cheek towards the mandible. So working our way up and down in this sort of vertical orientation. You can work both at the same time if it's not too painful for you. So picking it up. Oh, so right now I'm picking it up and pressing my thumbs into my fingers. Picking it up and pressing my thumbs into my fingers. So picking up the tissue and I'm rolling the thumbs. Picking up the tissue and I'm rolling the thumbs. There you go. Picking up the tissue and I'm rolling the thumbs. And you're gonna feel a good amount of tension here. Think about how many times you chew during the day. This muscle gets a lot of work and it gets very little love and very little attention. Good, so I'm just pulling that tissue with my thumbs. So my index finger kind of creates a wall for my thumbs to press into. So you can see my thumbs are sliding across the skin, pressing into the index finger. Let's do a few more passes. Really warming up this masseter muscle. It's feeling really good, actually. Very relieving. This is very necessary today. Good. Okay. Already I can feel like, wow, I can open my mouth so much more already, and I just feel so much circulation and stimulation around this joint, which is a really nice, relieving feeling. Okay, this next one is also going to be a bit painful. So we're going to try to address the lateral pterygoid externally, which is not optimal. It's not the best way to access it, but we can start to have a little bit of an impact. Okay, so get your fingers on your joint itself, on that TMJ, and just get a sense of where it is. You can feel that ball go up and down when you open and close your mouth. And then if you leave your mouth open a little and you come forward with a little bit of inward pressure, you feel like, oh, I run into another bone, right? So that's that coronoid process of your mandible. And so between these two landmarks, you'll feel there's like a little hole for your finger. There's a little dead space there. There's a little dead space in there where your fingers can sink in. So that's sort of our access point to lateral pterygoid externally. And so all we're going to do is take our index fingers or whatever finger's the most comfortable for you, and you're going to constantly press in as you very, very, very slowly open your mouth. Okay, so here we go. It's going to hurt, but we're just going to do it once. So here we go. Pressing in, keep that inward pressure, and very slowly keep breathing. 2 more breaths. Keep opening. Good. So lateral pterygoid, interestingly, is the only depressor of the jaw. So it has a big job to do. It's the only muscle that actually opens the jaw, and it gets some assistance from the hyoid muscles, but that's your primary jaw depressor, whereas all these other muscles we're working on are elevators of the jaw, right? They really shut the jaw closed. Okay, so now we're going to go and address medial pterygoid the best that we can externally. And so how do we find it? So if this is masseter here, if you were to go under your mandible and come onto the other side of the mandible, so the inside of the mandible where the teeth are, medial pterygoid would be right there. So they're sort of sister muscles that work on either side of the mandible. So the way that we can access it is if you come to this angle here. So here's the back of my mandible. I'm coming forward a little bit. Okay, so I'm in the floor of the mouth, right? I'm underneath. And I want my thumb to sink in here, but I want to stay as close to the mandible as possible, as close to the bone as possible. And if I were to clench my teeth, I can feel that muscle tense up. Now, it's not the same as these muscles of the floor of the mouth that if I were to press my tongue to the ceiling, it would push me down, right? If I stay close to the bone and I feel with this part of my thumb on the bone and I clench my teeth, then I feel from deep in there, a muscle starts to descend. So all we're going to do is work on both of these at the same time. So here's the corner of the mandible. I come forward a little bit. I keep this part of my thumb on the bone. Sink in. And just hold it. And I can even open and close just a little. And then we can just stay there and breathe. Let gravity pull your head down onto your thumbs. We'll take a couple breaths here, pinning that medial pterygoid. You can even rock back and forth a little bit. So from the chin towards the back of the head. Real subtle, small movement, just little oscillations. Good. Okay, and then to end this whole sequence, we're just going to start down at the corner of the mandible, and with a little bit of inward pressure, we're going to just slowly start to drag that masseter muscle up. And as we do that, some gentle range of motion. And if you find a tense spot, you can hang out there a little longer. Let's do that 2 more times. So starting down at the angle of the mandible, a little bit of inward pressure with the fingers. Start dragging the tissue straight up towards the top of the head. With a little bit of movement of the jaw, open and closed. If it's comfortable for you, you can even experiment with that lateral translation. And let's do it one last time. So coming down to the corner of the mandible, a little bit of inward pressure, and then just dragging the tissue up towards the ceiling with that range of motion. And each pass, you can go a little bit deeper and really feel into that masseter muscle. It's so strong. Great job. So now let's end by reevaluating our range of motion. So let's do those same movements that we did before we started our session today, which was to press and elevate the jaw. So open and close the mouth. Wow. I mean, for me, I just feel so much more space. I feel more open through the cheekbone. I feel like my mandible has a lot more freedom of movement. I even feel it into the back of my throat. Great. And then protrusion and retraction. So chin forward and back. Feels good. And then lateral translation either way with a little bit of space between the lips and the teeth. Even this feels better, like the clicking on the left side is already not as bad. We could do a lot more work here, but I already feel a big change in the dysfunction that was happening on this side before we started. Yeah, much smoother. It's not coming out of the socket. It doesn't make me wince or cringe. Very good. That's it for today. I hope that you got a lot out of this session today and that it offered you some pain relief or some relief from your discomfort that you were having in this area. If you did decide to try out these exercises today, please leave me some feedback in the comments below and let me know how it went for you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in more self-massage strategies, you might really enjoy my brand new Self-Massage for Anxiety Relief video series, or my breath bundle, both of which you can find in the new Be Light store. And if you'd like more behind the scenes time with me, including live monthly Q&As and also live monthly guided community sessions, then please consider joining my private online Be Light community. And lastly, if you'd like to further support the channel and the work that I do here, I'm always so grateful. You may always do that by visiting my Buy Me a Coffee page. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time.